Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Higher Moment Mastermind. I'm Shira Lotzar, happy to be joined by my colleague, Vern Schellinger. To answer your job search questions today, we normally are also joined by Alki Thompson. Not sure if he'll be joining us, but we hope to see him. We're just here to address whatever job search questions are on your heart and mind. And so, Edwina, would you like to kick us off with your search? Any pressing questions? What we can help you with?
Yeah, a little bit about your background.
Yeah,
The more we
Okay.
know about you, the greater likelihood we
yeah,
can help.
right.
Sounds good. So I had my master's in public health in 2021, and I work in the field with education. I also do advocacy with patients, and I work in different settings. I work in a hospital for 5 years where I work with patient on diabetes, high blood pressure. And one of the things that we did, like through follow-up calls, I work in a school setting with asthma students. And in this setting, we wanted to decrease asthma absenteeism among the student body, because we realized some students, because they don't follow up with their primary care physician, they end up in the emergency room. And because of that, most of them, there's like a percentage of them that doesn't graduate high school. So I was like positioned in the school. I work with the parent, the student, like through education. I also communicate with the doctors to have the asthma medication form filled out so that the nurse can give the medication to the student at the school instead of losing a school day. Once they have the medication at the school, they can come in. If they have a flare, go to the nurse and they have like their medication. Right now, I'm working with a cancer program, and I'm a liaison between community health centers and endoscopy centers that are willing to give free colonoscopy to uninsured patients. And right now, I'm looking for a position where I could, I want to work in policy, and positioning myself in that area where like I could like work in that field, because I feel like where I'm at right now is not positioning me toward like a policy, because that's the background what I learned with my master's. And when it comes to the search, I'm not successful. I have a couple of interviews, but it's just like I need to work more on the questions, because some question is just like, okay, how do you answer that? And one of the questions I have right now, it's even though you have like, how can I put it? You have, I don't have hands-on experience, like when you finish school, you have that book information in your head. But with all the experience I have, I'm trying to take like all that experience and translate that into what I can bring to an agency. So I was wondering, how do you like structure all that and make the employer feel like you are capable of using those
Yeah.
experiences towards that new field that you're trying to do?
I'm going to give you an example. It's not in your field, but it's a parallel example, I believe, that might be able to help you. So, I don't know if you know my background, but I'm a career coach and a recruiter, right? And I write resumes, right? So there is just one quick example. So there was this one time that I was helping a woman who was in the advocacy, government relations type of a field, okay? She was in the association community, that was her sector, but her lane, her professional lane, what she did for a living was in government relations and advocacy. Anyway, so she came to me for this first meeting, and quickly we found out that she didn't want to do government relations anymore, right? What she wanted to do was operations. Like, wait, what? Right? Watch this. How do you turn into an operations person? So here's what we did, and I hope this will be parallel for you, Edwina. So we took her background, and of course we can't change her titles, right? But what we did do is we found accomplishment stories that specifically related to operational skills, budget, finance, technology, staff development, all these, process, whatever, things that had nothing to do with advocacy, even though they were in that advocacy context, but the skill that we pulled out was
Yeah.
related to operations. And then we created a headline for her on her resume. We called her an operations-minded association leader. So we kind of gave her an adjective. And so for you, you can say, policy something, policy related or, and then all of the skills that you bring out, the
Okay.
accomplishment stories get labeled with a
The
policy so that the whole resume feels policy rather
Okay.
than what you've been doing, right?
No. Okay.
It brands the whole thing as a policy person.
Okay. I see what you mean.
Make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense because I could see like what I'm looking for and what my experience, the experience I have doesn't really match, but there's a connection. I just need to know how to connect the two to
That's
make it.
right. That's
Okay.
right. You have, so there's another concept here that I like to share with people when they're thinking about any sort of career shift.
Yeah.
This will sound funny, but it'll make sense in a second. I call it the difference between ing and What's that? Ing is the skill, is the profession. Writing versus writer, event planning, event planner. So you've had sort of, sounds like policy as an ing, meaning it's been skills that you've had, but now you want to be an version, meaning you want to do it full time. You want to actually brand yourself as a policy professional, as opposed to just having policy skills. So you lift up your policy skills, you rebrand yourself as an as a policy person. And then the whole thing feels, it helps to minimize the risk of the employer. Because then they're like, oh, I get it, right? She's just showcasing to us her policy skills, so we know that she's going to be qualified to do this full time.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
One of the other things that you can think about doing is the people I'm assuming you do know people that work in the policy related area. Reach out to them and make sure that they're aware of the kind of shift you want to make. What advice would they have for you? Is there anyone they can connect you with that might be helpful in your job search?
Okay.
Getting that information, that feedback from them, and the more people you talk to, the more you're going to learn about how can I make this shift.
Sounds good.
I mean, I would suggest you do everything Shira just said first. So you have that, in your, you have that knowledge, you have that experience. I've thought about this before you go out and start to meet with people, but then when you're meeting with them, you've got something really to talk about.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead, if it's okay. I'm going to share with you this person's resume that I just mentioned. I've shared this so many times that I've redacted it now, so it's sanitized. So it's a real resume. I just changed the name. So here you go. So this is the individual. Okay, so you see how we say operations-minded person. And then what we did was, see, even though she's a policy person, it's ironic, right? Because you're looking to go into policy. She was looking to get out of policy. Anyway, but you see technology modernization, staff development, budget management, process improvement. Get it? So we pulled out the accomplishment stories. It was all right. It was normal. See how it was part of her advocacy campaign, but it was a technology modernization effort. Does that make sense? As you see how, and the way I do resumes is labeling the stories with a competency. By doing it that way with a bold skill,
Yes.
it helps the recruiter scan down the page very quickly. Bing, 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 right? Keyword, 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 keyword. And that's what makes the resume pop as a brand.
Oh, okay.
Because you've got all these stories. Now, what we did with a resume like this is you see there's a bunch of stories. This is what I call a master document. So you can pull out call this every spice in the kitchen cabinet, all right? You can pull, this is very long. You wouldn't have this many stories, but you can pull out the different spices for the different recipes. You see, we have a bunch of stuff here. You'd probably want maybe 4 or 5 stories.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, yeah.
And the stories is just like the skills, what the person did.
So it's not a job. So thank you for the question. Actually, I'm not talking about job duties. I'm talking about accomplishment stories. So these are actual stories. So the way you'd want to frame it is, the way I do it is what I call CAB, challenge, action, benefit. Some people say STAR, situation, task, action, result, or situation, action, result. It's all the same stuff. And so you create your story, but then rewrite it in a few line, 3 line or so accomplishment story to say what you did, what you actually accomplished. If you can put metrics in there, great, but a lot of careers don't actually, or skill accomplishment stories don't lend themselves to metrics. So you see, we don't even have metrics here, but if you do, great. But if not, at least it's a story that speaks to what you did, and then it's labeled with a skill. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah, I have a question. I remember when I was working at the hospital, when they hire new navigators, I used to let them shadow me.
Mm-hmm.
And once they shadow me, I let them like do the work themselves because I wanted
Mm-hmm.
them to see how I do and like kind of like find their own way. So in this way, can I do something like not staff development, but it's just like something about like train, like something about training. It's kind of like a training, like by letting them shadow me, like give them my experience and see how they do it, like give them pointers. So how can I like structure that? Like if I'm doing something, if I'm redoing my resume and I want to highlight that. Any
Well,
tips?
the real question is should you be highlighting that? And I'm not saying whether you should or not. It's a question. Just because you've accomplished something doesn't necessarily mean it goes on your resume. Only
I
put it
see.
on your resume if it fits your brand. Now, if you're trying
Okay.
to focus yourself on policy,
Mhm.
I would recommend focusing on policy related accomplishments, unless you're also looking to showcase your leadership skills, in which case training, staff development, things like that, budget management, right? You'd want to then call those things out, but that depends on the kind of role. So
Okay.
what I believe in accomplishment stories, you've got what I call your career-oriented accomplishments and your leadership accomplishments. The career-oriented are the one, or the lane-oriented are the ones that are specific to your lane, in your case, policy. Okay.
Mhm.
Very
Mhm.
jargony almost, right? Like things that are very specific to your career. But then your leadership are generic. Like most
Oh,
leaders are going to have budget and staff and change management and process improvement and things like that. But only put those things in to the extent that you want to be a leader, showcase as a leader or a manager.
sounds
So
good.
that's a choice, but you have to really
Okay.
think through what is the employer looking for? In what ways are you going to solve their business problems?
Okay.
Because
Thank you.
you're trying to showcase yourself, but remember, you're trying to solve their problems. That's why they're hiring you.
Yeah.
So to think in general, what are you trying to highlight? And then the last thing is you got to customize your resume for the specific role. So they have a position description, you have a generic resume, you've got to customize that for them. And that's why a resume like the one I showed you with keywords
Yeah.
is customizable. That makes sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Welcome, Maria. Good to see you again.
Thank you, Shira.
Yeah.
It's good to see you as well.
Yeah. How's it going? How's your job search?
It's going very well. I think, I don't feel overwhelmed, but there's just a lot of pieces I have to um, put in place and just figuring out how I'm going to get down the road where I want to get to. I did
Yeah.
because of, my wanting to um, transition into something different that I've not done before. So just a lot of things I'm thinking through and figuring out and working on. In fact, I have a question regarding that. Uh, and first of all, let me just say too, thank you, all of you, for the all the information you gave me last week. And it's just, you're all just so encouraging, so supportive, and I just really, really appreciate it very much.
It's our pleasure.
And just come, well, thank you. And just coming to a Q&A like this, not really knowing what to expect, that was just amazing. The the feeling I had after I left the session last week. So I just wanted to
Good.
share that.
Good.
Yeah, well, thank
Good,
you.
good, good, yeah.
But one question I have now as I'm working on everything is, although I know I want to work in direct services, um, because I'm not independently wealthy and I still have to have income. And so even though I want to do the virtual assistant type work and continue to look for the type of work I really want to do, but at the same time, as I'm looking, I've seen a couple of positions that I was going to apply for, but they're not. There's one of them is an operation, it's a administrative manager, and one is an office manager position, and one is an executive coordinator. And so,
Mhm.
although I'm wanting to get away from that, but that's what I've done.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but those positions aren't as an executive assistant necessarily, but as a coordinator or manager, then it's not, it feels better to me as far as the responsibilities are, as far
Meaning,
as
meaning that it
responsibilities
would be
go.
less stressful?
Not necessarily
Or,
less stressful, but the work I would enjoy more because I never cared for. I'm not a big fan of doing scheduling and travel arrangements, that type
right.
of thing. And so the
Yeah.
last position I had, that was all I did.
Yeah.
And so with these other positions, there's a wider range of duties.
Sure. Yeah.
So which I'd be okay with. But my
Yeah.
question to you guys is, if I'm truly wanting to stay in the direct services realm where I'm working with women, for instance, who've been domestically abused or in the house of situations, should I? Well, I guess I'm thinking I still have to keep my feet in the other place too, as I'm looking, because I don't know what's going to turn up for me quicker, faster, if
You've
that makes
got,
any sense.
you've got that classic tension between money and mission,
Exactly. Yes.
right? And that's just one of those tensions, life tensions that a lot of people have. And that's a personal decision, right? And obviously a
Okay.
prayerful one. It's a prayerful one.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
that's why if you need to, as we said last time, continue to make tents, right? Like the
Yes.
Apostle Paul, right? You may
Yes.
need to have that full-time traditional, bring in the dollars,
Okay.
right? Okay, to put food on the table. And then do the mission on the side as a volunteer,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And
And-
that's just one of those things. Now, ideally, if you can get the normal tent making job in that sector, if there
Yes.
is a nonprofit that can afford you to do that
Yes.
kind of office management coordination that's a beautiful thing. I mean, that would be great. And you can
Okay.
go look for that. A lot of those
Okay.
places don't have a lot of nickels to rub together, in which case they may not be able to afford you.
Right.
Right. And so that's just one of those things, those tensions you may just have to resolve with continuing to do tent making and doing the other as a volunteer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's, so I guess it answers my question too, because as I'm looking, I am purposely looking at specific salary ranges. And so if it's less than what I was making before, I'm just not considering, at least not at this point. I'm looking at the nonprofits who actually can afford to pay
Yeah.
what I'm looking for.
And typically those are going to be the larger ones,
Yes.
right? The more
Yes.
established name brands, if
Yes.
you will.
Yes.
That have that kind of need and can afford that kind of stuff. And frankly, it's just as the nonprofits go, what you're also talking about is not just something that's larger, but typically something that's national, maybe even international. The
Right.
regional and local direct service are typically way too small. Their budgets are way too small for what to even have the need for or be able to afford somebody with your caliber.
Yes. 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 I have noticed that myself. Yeah. Yeah. Just from my searching. So, but thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Alki, do you have anything to chime in about Maria's situation?
Morning. You guys covered it. I was curious with your question, were you concerned at all about what your resume looked like, or was just a general question about, should I make money while I'm looking? Was that the question, or did it have anything to do with, will it affect my resume and all those types of things?
No, not really, because I know with my resume, I'll have to tweak it depending on what I'm applying for.
Yeah.
But and I would like to, as I'm going forward, be able to have more of the direct services type things on my resume. And I know I'll get there, but it might be, the next position I get might not be specifically that direct services position. And that's okay, because then I'll still be working towards that.
Yeah. Yeah, what Shira said, I second that.
Okay.
You got your mission, chase
Yes.
it, go after it. But in
Yes.
the meantime, if you pass money on the ground, pick it up. And because you
Will
have to
do.
make a living. So
Yes. Okay. Thank you. That's very helpful.
So Sil, did you want to, oh, you're at work now. I guess you can't chat. Maria, Sil just mentioned in the chat that she was, Sil, are you able to speak? No, you can't speak because you're at work. Got it. That's why you wrote. So anyway, she said she was an executive assistant and knew it was only a launch pad. I knew that I'd never had the personality to be an EA, but I got my promotion as an EA. So I used my skills as a contracts person to move out of that role. And now I'm looking for a promotion in the federal government as a GS-14. And I've been so unmotivated to update my resume and get anything moving to that new role. Oh, I see. That's your question. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, motivation's an internal state, right? And the question is what's going to motivate you to get it going. I think, if you spend some time offline, evenings, maybe take the weekend, a Saturday, whatever, and really just think through what is it that's going to challenge you? What kind of role is it really going to excite you? I'll share with you, as I do when I do my career coaching with folks, and I haven't done this in a while here, so I might as well, pick this up again. There's an exercise that I take people through, and I call it passiontivity, and might as well be a good time to share it with you guys again. And so maybe this is going to be helpful for you. So I'm going to share my screen and share, the exercise. So this is an exercise that'll help you to think about, hopefully will motivate you, right? But it'll help you to think about your skills as they align with your career motivators. Okay. And so what you want to do is you want to take, and once I populate this, you can go ahead and take a screenshot of it. Okay. And so there are 4 quadrants here. The first one is the most important one. This is the area that's going to engage you the most, where you're highly skilled, the skills, where you're highly skilled and highly motivated. The tasks, the skills, right? Where you feel like you give discretionary effort. It's a big smiley face emoji, if you will, right? You pom-poms in both hands. This is the kind of work that thrills you. When you're doing this work, you come alive. You're excited. You go the extra mile. It doesn't even feel like work. That's how excited you are to do this kind of work. Contrast that with stopgap work, high skill, low motivation. This is work where you're perfectly capable, but truth be told, you tolerate it. Okay. So this tolerating work are things that maybe for you, it's contracting. Okay. They'll do it. It's fine. It'll put bills, pay the bills. But it's not work that you really find fulfilling as a career. And this is a very important contrast to think through the skills that go in the upper right and the skills that go in the bottom right, because when you figure out the skills in the upper right, that can help you to make your pivot. And that's also where, I don't know if you were on the call when I shared this concept a few minutes ago about ing and Ing is the skill set and is the profession. So for example, there's I'll say project management versus project manager, right? Or writing versus writer, event planner. There's some skills, there's some ing skills that you might have in your high engagement box where you may want to repurpose one into a full profession. There might be something in there that lights you up. I'll give you a quick example. Years ago, I was coaching a woman who was a nonprofit executive, and she put down a bunch of skills in the high engagement box around, board engagement and all these different things. And she put down event planning. And I said to her, hey, Jackie, I said, why don't you take that box and do the ing and the process? Is there any skill in here that you love doing so much you could see yourself doing it full time? And she lit up and she goes, oh my gosh, donor events. I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, no, you don't understand. I am like the best person at donor events. I'm so good that I have other nonprofit executives that are asking me for help. My donor events are amazing. The people laugh, they cry. We've got kids, we've got all this stuff, right? And I said, Jackie, I said, do you love doing this? This is where I went with it. I said, it seems like you're so excited. Could you see yourself doing it maybe even as a small business? She goes, yes. I mean, and literally humanimpactevents.com was born. She just was in love with this and so pivoted away from the nonprofit executive, in her case, decided to do the small business route. But the point is that this ing and can be really helpful to help you focus on a passion, right? A skill set that really makes you come alive, right? And you contrast all of that with professional development, want to and should, meaning skills that you want to be better at versus skills that you feel you should be better at. It's 2 different things. The want to is the get to, would make you happy. The should is the sort of need to, have to, I know I probably should be better at public speaking or whatever, right? Low skill, low motivation is disengagement, things that drain you. You're not skilled at it, no desire to be, out of your wheelhouse, it's not your personality. That's good to know too, as a contrasting box to the high engagement. Does this make sense? All right, so that hopefully will help you, will inspire you a little bit to get you motivated around what could be the next step. So feel free again to take a picture of this, if that's helpful. Okay. And I know you can't talk right now, but I'm seeing your head nod. All right. So Welcome, Karen. Good to see you again. How's all in your job search world?
It's going okay. I did talk to the Maryland Board of Elections yesterday, and I may be starting part-time, for a couple months in March.
Good.
But, other than that, the job search continues.
Okay. All right. Well, look, income is income, right? However
Right.
it gets in the door. Yeah. I would imagine that you're going to have a lot more election work in the next year.
We'll see.
Yeah. All right. Good. All right. Any other questions, folks, that we can support you on? Any topics you want us to dive into? Any kind of organizations you're trying to get into that we can maybe name names that maybe we can say, hey, I've got a contact or a colleague there, like just for everybody to help with your networking?
I do
Girl.
have one,
Uh-huh.
but I'm not pulling it up just yet. Give me a second.
Okay. And I'm so sorry, Sil, I'm not, and I don't think Alki or Hivern, we're not really in the federal government space, so I'm not, and plus federal managers, you'd have to be more specific, right? Like what agency, what role. I would recommend that you go on LinkedIn. Do you have a LinkedIn profile? Okay. Do you have a decent amount of connections? Good. So I would go on LinkedIn and I would use the search bar in the upper left-hand corner. It's free. And start searching for people with the titles that you're looking to connect to. So not just federal manager, but federal manager of what? Like what kind of division, what kind of role? And hit enter, right? And people will come up. And if any of those people are second level connections to you, that means you have a first level mutual connection, mutual contact. I would reach out to the first level person and see if they'd be open to introducing you to that second level person. So I would message the first level person, but I'd also send that person an email because a lot of people don't check their LinkedIn. Send them an email and see if they'd be open to introducing you to John Smith, who's the federal manager or whatever, right? Because networking is important. And I would send out a lot of those messages because people are busy, people don't check their LinkedIn, and all that. You want to have a funnel, a wide funnel of people, because only a few people are going to respond. So have a lot of people that you want to go after. It's kind of like being in sales. The salespeople do that all the time. They call it a pipeline, the funnel, right? So just plant lots and lots and lots of seeds, and then hopefully some of them will sprout. Okay. Maria, did you want to share with us the name of an organization?
Yes, it's an office manager position with Amalgamated. I need to look up how to pronounce that. Is that AMALGAMATED? Amalgamated Transit Union.
Okay.
Any contacts there?
Not off the top of my head.
Do they, is there a website that you can go to?
I just found this on unionjobs.com and I just got it yesterday, so I haven't looked yet.
It's Amalgamated is it Amalgamated Transit? Is that what you said?
Amalgamated Transit Union, and they're in Silver Spring, Maryland.
Oh, so it's a union shop. Okay.
Yes, it is.
And there is a position there?
Yes, that's an office manager.
An
And
office
it's in the
manager.
pay range that
Great.
I'm looking for as well. And
Okay.
the responsibilities is the type of work that I thought I would really love to do. Because the
Yeah.
position I came from, we had a union there. And as a person who's worked in the office, I really didn't realize that unions are helpful for folks who do office work. I always thought of unions being helpful for people who are working in warehouses and places like that where the conditions aren't necessarily the best. But I realized from my last position that unions are very helpful, even if you are working in an office setting. And so that's why I'm really okay with working with a union, because I do understand the importance of that. But I'd never heard of this one before.
Yeah, I'm looking them up on my own LinkedIn, and it looks like I've got a couple of second level connections there. I would recommend that you do that first on your own.
Okay.
That just type in amalgamate. This is what I did. I typed in Amalgamated Transit Union Silver Spring. And then
Okay.
when you do that, then go to the All Filters tab in the upper right. Here, let me share my screen.
Okay.
So this is the search I did. Okay, just
Okay.
sec. So this is what came up. Actually, sorry, this is not what came up. What I did was to get to this page, I hit the All Filters tab. And then I went down here to locations and hit Silver Spring.
Oh,
Okay. This is what came up for me. So like I've got this person, got, you know, couple second levels here. Interestingly, there's this person here, Janice, who was an admin, I think there. But anyway, so do this for yourself first to see if you have any second levels.
okay.
If you don't, you're welcome to reach out to me. I don't know if any, like I just opened up Yvette and the person who I'm connected through, I don't know. So I don't know if, you know, it would work, but I'm happy to
Right.
do an outreach. And you,
Okay.
do you actually have an interview scheduled or you're applying
No, I
first?
don't. No, I
Okay.
haven't applied yet. Yeah.
Okay. So what you'd want to do is
Okay.
apply first and then reach out to, again, if you happen to have a first level mutual connection to a second level, ask if that
Okay.
person would be open to forwarding your resume to the hiring manager or the recruiter for extra consideration. Because you just want to get
Okay.
noticed out of the pile. Because right now,
Yes.
if you apply, you could be one of a lot of people who apply. You want to get
Right.
somebody notice you, have an internal champion, as we say. But
Okay.
if you don't have any connections, reach out to me. Maybe one of my path. I don't know. Maybe I have a connection and there's a connection who can help you. So
Okay, I'll do that. And this is all so new for me because I've never really used LinkedIn a lot.
mhm.
So, and when you mentioned doing the search that way, that never even occurred to me to do that.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I'm going to go ahead. You and I met through JCA, right?
Uh,
The Career Gateway.
no, through Holly, what's her
Oh,
last
okay,
name?
got it. So I'm going to share with you a video on my
Okay.
website. So I
Okay.
every other month or so, I do this presentation to this group called JCA. It's called the Career Gateway. And it's a week-long job search program that costs $75. I can put the link in the chat, but I do a LinkedIn training for them. It's a couple-hour training. And
Okay.
I'm going to put the link here for the recording from one of the times that I did it. So this
Okay.
page of my website has my job search videos. Halfway down that page, you'll see a link that says using LinkedIn like a pro.
Okay.
And in there, there'll be lots and lots of tips for you, including both how to craft your profile in a branded way, but also how to use LinkedIn for your search, the kind of tips
Okay.
that we were just talking about.
Okay. Great. Thank
So I
you.
hope that's helpful.
That
I'll
will
go
be
ahead
very
and
helpful.
put in also the Career Gateway link.
Okay.
It's a great group.
And I think you had mentioned, I think the first time I was on the call with you about you doing a LinkedIn training
I
session, I
am.
think
In
on the
fact, I'm
22nd.
gonna, in fact, I'm going, yep, I'm gonna be, here's the Career Gateway. Yep, I'm gonna be doing
Okay.
that training again. You're absolutely right. On the 22nd, I think it's the 22nd. Yeah, it's gonna be at 9:30. So
Okay.
if you or anyone on this call wants to participate in it for free, I'm allowed to invite guests to that meeting.
Okay.
Please just email me and I'll get you the Zoom link as soon as I have it. And I will put my, that's my email. Okay.
Okay.
And the one that's coming up, I think they start, so this next one is actually January 16th. So if you wanted to join Career Gateway actually as a participant, the next session starts January 16th, and I would imagine they still have spots open.
Okay.
So it's a great group. Again, it's only $75. So you get a lot of rich information from them.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Mhm. All right. Anyone else have any questions, topics, thoughts? Alki or Vern, anything on your desk you want to share from your candidate experiences, coaching experiences?
I'll add real quick to Maria. I recommend when you do apply, Shira said apply first. And you can do either or. You can do research and connect first and then apply, or you can apply first and then follow up. I suggest if you do apply first and then try and find someone. Sometimes nowadays, as soon as you apply, for whatever reason, hope it doesn't happen to you, but for whatever reason you get rejected, you can get rejected within 2 minutes and you might not even get a chance. And a lot of times, I call that blacklisting, where you apply and then the machine or the recruiter sees your resume pop up real quick, looks it over, and for whatever reason, you know, they don't look at it, or they put you in the hold or rejection pile. I would suggest if you can do a little research, and then when you hit that apply button, follow up as soon as you can. To what Shira was saying, if you find someone on LinkedIn, to send that email to us and that connect to say, hey, I just applied. I would say try not to put a lot of time between it. That way you're still relatively fresh, and they also haven't, you know, tossed you, because sometimes, and this happens a lot on the other side of the, you know, the sin of apply. You know, I've got messages plenty of times from managers saying, you know, hey, did Jane Doe apply? And I'm like, let me go look. And then I'll look and I'm like, oh yeah, last week, but she doesn't have the experience you're looking for, or yada, yada, yada. So she's already been in that pile. A lot of times they'll go, oh, and then they won't do anything with it. Sometimes if you've made an impression, or if they've taken a look and your resume has made an impression, they will actually, you know, have somebody like me unreject you, or we'll have a conversation. But I always tell candidates, if you are going to do that and then connect with someone, just do it as soon as you can after you apply. That way you're still fresh and you haven't been biased already and moved somewhere else.
Yeah, and you can also
Okay.
write a note. Sometimes that can help. A personalized note to the recruiter to explain why you believe you'd be a good fit, whether that's your identification with the mission, certain skill sets that you bring, because sometimes it's, Alki's right, they'll like automatically reject you, and you might actually be a good fit, but maybe your resume isn't showcasing you in the way that it needs to be showcased, which is why branding is so important. I always talk about it, right? Because employers sometimes see your resume and they don't see what they need to see. Even though you are qualified or could be qualified, the document doesn't speak to your skills and interests in the way that they would understand. So sometimes a follow-up note, cover letter, certainly, but an actual personalized note saying, hi, you know, so-and-so, I was recently applied for this. Looks like my resume wasn't accepted, but I wanted to reach out with a personal note to explain to you why I applied, because of this and this and this reason. And that might actually like, oh, thank you for doing that, you know?
Okay.
Yep.
Well,
And
thank
don't,
you.
this could be for everybody on the call. We've probably talked about it before too. Yeah, the other option is too, especially if the job is posted within the first 24 hours and it's relatively newly posted and it hasn't been there for like 100 years. If it's freshly posted, quote unquote, you have time, you have a little bit of time before 6,000 people apply. I would have my resume ready to apply. And then I would see if I can find, you know, a lot of times it'll show you the recruiter who's posting that job. If it's LinkedIn, they'll show you. And again, you got Indeed and other places, but on LinkedIn itself, a lot of times they'll show you the recruiter who posted that job. If you're able to send them a connect note, or find them, you know, through Google, find their email, you can send them an email and go, you know, hey, I think I'm perfect for this role. This role is perfect for me, or I'm close match, but just had a couple of questions just to make sure before I apply that I'm in your ballpark. They might give you, you know, that gives you an extra look before you even apply, to get some pre-feedback like, oh yeah, I would apply if I was you. Yeah. And then they may actually give you a flash interview, you know, kind of on the spot, just checking some things. And they may go, yeah, go ahead and apply. And then they're making a mental note. Wow, I can't wait for her to apply. She looks like she might be one of the better candidates that has applied
Yeah,
so far.
be
So
proactive.
Wow,
Mhm.
that's great. Thank you both. That's great advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow,
And,
appreciate it.
and the other part of that we talk about all the time is as you get into this process, um, Sherry uses the word, find your champion or find champions that can support you in this. Anyone that you can connect with who knows somebody at, the company that you're applying to, who can, put a good word in for you, or maybe knows the hiring manager or knows the recruiter or knows somebody in the company who can
Right.
say, hey, this person has applied for this job and my, brother knows her really well and says she's just fantastic. You really ought to, give her a chance to, at least interview for the job. So that's just one more element to this whole job search that you want to try to do as much as you can to get, the same thing Alki was just saying, get noticed, so that
Right.
you can get the interview.
Okay, thank you.
That's my recommendation. And everybody can do it their own way, but having sat in that chair as a recruiter, and especially nowadays with so many people applying for jobs, and again, unless it's, you look and it's like it was just posted within 24 hours, 3 days, you'd still stand a chance to be kind of early in the first 3 days. And so maybe you can, apply blindly and have a little bit more time, but just my own personal preference, I tell people, if you can, before you apply, see if you can find an internal champion or connection first and then apply. Do that first. Don't take 6 weeks because then, you haven't applied. But if you can within the first day, first 2 hours, 3 hours, and somebody responds back and you can just get one person, one internal champion on the inside. From the other side of the recruiter desk, when there's 400 other candidates, and they get fair treatment, but I'm telling you, for me, I can use my own personal experience as a recruiter. Most times if that happens and I answer questions for someone and they're even close and I don't have good candidates already, or I'm just starting, you go top of mind for me.
Yep,
Mm.
I
that's
may
right.
still look at other candidates, but
Right.
you're now
Yeah.
top. There's no way I cannot remember you
Right.
and have that conversation.
Right.
I'm highly motivated, especially
Right.
me. I'm trying to fill a job within the first 24 hours, 48 hours to try to find a candidate. So if I find a good candidate, there's no way I'm not going to remember that conversation and do something with it.
Yep. Yeah.
Thank you.
Catching a recruiter early is very important.
So in that regard, then if there are jobs that have been posted for a while, like a couple of
Mhm.
weeks or 3, does it probably not make sense to apply if it's been posted for that long?
Not necessarily.
Right.
So
You don't
it's
know.
still posted for many reasons.
Mhm.
One,
Okay.
they filled it and they haven't taken it down yet.
Take it down.
One, they have an offer pending and they're still keeping it posted just in case.
Okay.
There's so many reasons why it's still up there. Obviously, is they haven't found anyone yet and they don't have anyone. Sometimes the job's on hold and it's still on some job board. They may have taken it down off the company website and it's still posted. But again, going back to Vern's point and our point that we always talk about, one of the best things you can do is get intel. Find someone who's there, reach out, don't hesitate, recruiter, HR, listen, I see a job that's been posted for 5 months. Is this job still live? Worst case scenario, most times they'll answer that question for you. Is this job still live? Do you have, are you in the final stages with anyone? Can I still apply for this job? Are they still, if the manager is still looking, they'll answer that question for you if you can get a live person to respond back.
And things change. I had it happen where, late last year, I was doing a search. Excuse me. We had 3 finalist candidates. They were all amazing. I mean, amazing. Like a hiring manager, like, oh, I gotta hire any one of them. One by one, things happened. This one couldn't relocate. This one, and all of a sudden,
Yep.
we were like out, all 3 candidates. I was
Yep.
shocked. I literally had to start the search all over again. Okay, you just don't know what's gonna happen.
No.
We don't like that. I was about to laugh at Shira because I know that didn't make her a happy camper. I've had 5 candidates once before that I've seen for all of them go. 2 of them got their offers, things happen.
Right, things
People
happen.
change their minds. It's
Yeah,
And
you just don't know.
You know, one of the jobs that I got, I came in second and said, okay, well, you know, move on. Well, like within 2 days, I got a call back and said, are you still interested in this position? I said, yes. The woman who accepted the position found out the next day her husband was transferred to Tennessee and she's moving to Tennessee.
Right, right.
So,
Things happen.
the fate of luck helped me, because you come in second, you might as well come in fifth, right? Or eighth. They offer the job to somebody else. So, like I said, things happen.
I offered somebody last year. I was not going to give out any personal information, but I offered someone last year, and it was a story with this group that I work with because it was such a surprise and such a story. But she really wanted the job, and we did all this work and got to the offer stage, and she accepted. And by the way, I mean, I've had people show up the first day, second day, third day, and leave. But yeah, she accepted the offer. And then the next morning, I wake up and get an email. Hey, Alki, gonna have to change my mind. My boyfriend proposed to me, and we're relocating.
Right.
Yeah.
All kinds of things happen.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Yep, things change.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's very helpful because I did one of the positions I looked at. It had been there for, I think maybe, and I just saw it for the first time. It had already been there for, I think, 6 weeks or 5, something like that. And I thought, well, I don't know, is it still available or not? But what you're saying makes total sense. So
Yeah.
I'll try to make that connection. And also, Vern, to what you said, it's interesting you mentioned that with a position that you wound up getting. I'm from Tennessee. So when you mentioned that, I thought, wow. So,
Yeah.
It's funny. All right, Edwina,
Yeah.
you've had your hand patiently raised.
Yes. So I have a question. 2 weeks ago, I had an interview and I sent a thank you note, but I never heard from the employer. Should I reach out or just like leave it alone?
No, that's just normal. That's normal. Yeah. Yeah. That's perfectly fine. Now, as far as not following up, you don't need to follow up on your thank you note. But as far as the process itself, so here's a question for you. Couple of questions. Number one, was it a first level interview? Was it a quick screening interview, or was it a real talking with the hiring manager?
I think it was a quick screening. It was a 30
Yeah.
minutes over Zoom, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she told me she just started, like, I think they just started interviewing for the position.
Right. So she's going to go through her laundry list of all her people. Did she tell you to give you a sense of timing?
Yeah, like because she said they need to hire someone in mid-February, but like things go slow. But more than likely she just started and she might have like a second interview, but she wasn't sure. So
Yeah.
because I asked like what is the next after the interview, what is the next step? And that's what she told me.
Okay. So in this particular case, if you're really interested in the role and you really believe you're qualified, let me say that again.
Yeah.
Interested and qualified, not a long shot job, but like a real, I can do this job. I've got the skills, my resume, everything. Then I would wait from the time of your screening call. I'd wait 2 to 3 weeks. Just do a quick follow up and say, hey, it was great. First of all, you sent your thank you note, right? So follow up with you just to see kind of where you are in the process.
Okay.
And when you might be, narrowing your candidate pool for second levels. And that's it. And even if you don't hear back, at least you've done a quick ping, let them know of your interest, and that's it, because recruiters are busy, and they don't have time necessarily to respond to everybody. But at least you can just do a quick, now don't be nudgy, don't pester her.
I don't want to.
But one more touch base, 3 weeks from now is fine.
Yeah, because I have a strong interest in the position. It's aligned with what I've done before.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Adding on to that too, for everyone, if you don't ask after if you get an interview and you don't ask, hey, thanks, nice to meet you, you shake hands or virtually shake hands. If they don't tell you or give you an idea, or you don't get a chance to ask, and I would, take advantage of, multiple birds with as small stones as you can. If you get an interview, see if you can at the end find out, so when something to the effect of, when can I expect to hear? next, or, can you let me know when you make that next decision, or when will I find out, something to that effect? And that's not really the focus, but getting to the thank you note. If you are going to do a thank you note, I would add in with the thank you note too, because most people do that. If you haven't done that in the interview, with your thank you note, thank them, but also accomplish something else by dropping in there too, hey, and I look forward to hearing when the next steps are, or a question. When can I expect to hear, basically, am I moving forward or am I not moving forward, or when I may hear from you next. I would add that into the thank you note. That way it keeps you from having to go, okay, well, I gave him thank you, but I haven't heard anything, and it's been 2 weeks. Now I'm doing this little dance back and forth. Should I contact them? Should I not contact them? And you always can contact them with what Shira just said. But I would also, in the thank you note, thank them and just go, I look forward to hearing, about next steps, or, just asking, when can I expect to hear about the next steps? You could sneak that into the thank you note in a very light, gentle way. And that way you've already asked that question, and it kind of puts the onus on them to up their feedback. I say this because I'm a recruiter who's gotten these questions before, and I'm saying that little nudge, I would say use your thank yous efficiently that way.
Perfect, thank you,
That
because I
should-
didn't know that, oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, it should be the last question of the interview. Thank you so much for the interview. I'm really excited about the position. What, can you give me some indication of the process you're following, or where you're at in the process? And then, as Elke said, when you send the thank you note, say it again. What's the process? What should I expect?
And always remember, when you get whatever an answer you get, add another few weeks. Things take 4 times longer than they think that it will. It happens to all of us, right? They have all good intentions, and then hiring manager goes on vacation, or some stuff happens, and it's usually longer than what you expect.
Because I remember she said if I have any question, I could reach out. So I already sent the thank you note, and it's been 2 weeks, and I wanted to follow up today. So I'm like, I'm trying to select which question I could ask, just to slip in and just to get a follow-up. So that's what I'm thinking right now.
Yeah, that's exactly why. And I've seen it a lot. I get, I've gotten those thank you messages, and a lot of people do use that time. It becomes an email. It's a thank you at the top, but it's an email with questions and other things like that. And some people use that as a recruiter. I would say some people use that wisely, but I would get the most out of that thank you note when you do send it, so that then you're like, okay, well, it's kind of on them now because I asked them a question last. And so now it's their turn to get back to me. And again, I'm telling you, as a recruiter, looking at the screen, if I get a thank you note, to Shira's point, I'm like, I got all these emails, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's John. I'm pretty sure he's either following up to ask me what's going to happen next, or, oh, thank you. And I'm like, phew, he just said thank you. And then I just continue with the rest of my work. But if you give me a question, now I make a note, and I'm like, I got to get that's right. I got to get back to her on salary, or can this job be remote, or whatever. It now gives me a task that I've got to make a little tick mark for, and then I've got to get back to you, which is keeping the engagement going back and forth, and thus less ghosting.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
But
Because even
don't
if
pester them.
Because if you write a thank you note, and the recruiter gets back to you, the best that they're going to say is, "It was nice meeting you too, Edwina," which isn't really, there's nothing really other than acknowledging. They haven't really given you any more information.
No,
So
and it kind of drives you even crazier, because now you're
yeah, it's
like,
oh, okay,
I
great.
still don't know
I
what's
thank you, and you
happening.
thank me for thanking you, and that's it. Like,
Yeah.
Like
Right.
there were no reply, and I was like, most of the
Yeah.
time I got a reply, but I didn't get any reply. I'm like, okay, let me leave it alone.
I would leave it alone. Yeah. That's fine.
But it's just like, if I follow up 2 weeks later, that'll be okay, because today has been 2 weeks.
Yeah, you could just touch base and say, wanted to check in to see how the process is going, and when you might be narrowing down candidates for the second level.
Mhm.
And I want to reiterate my interest.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, any other thoughts, ideas, questions before we wrap up? Okay. All right, wonderful. Thanks everybody for joining us today. And I'll go ahead and formally close out the call. And if anybody wants to stand for the prayer call, you are certainly welcome to do that.